live. Okay, so let's just double check, because I know we should have a few people in the chat. Anyone that's in the chat, can you let us know that you can see us both and hear us both correctly? And we're just going to assume
that'd be a good start.
We're going to assume that you can unless we hear otherwise. So shout out to everyone in the chat. I wanted to say before we sort of start discussing the things that we're going to discuss, that I want to give a massive shout out to Mr. Ant, who was supposed to be here. And that's entirely my fault, because I said that we should do this yesterday, and then I remembered that we were going to do it like 1 minute before I said we were going to do it. And it's totally my fault. But next time.
It's quite funny, because usually Mr. Ant kind of edits me, so he makes me look better than I am. So that's quite terrifying, not having that.
I think you look great, Jay. Don't worry.
Oh, thank you.
Do you like my shirt, by the way?
Oh man, seriously, it's like I think I'm gonna have to, like, you're gonna have to do tours of your place at some point. I think it's the only way. Seriously, it's like sort of like seeing Madhouse in one room, but more. It's like, wow.
Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis sent me this shirt.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Because they did a thing on Instagram, and they were like, we have a few Original 7 shirts in these sizes. Who wants one? And so immediately I'm like, type, give me one. And technically it was just Terry, because Jimmy appeared from his Instagram to be on holiday in Italy at the time, having a lovely sunny holiday with his family. And I clearly pay too much attention to what Jam and Lewis are doing all the time.
Well, just sent by them,
The cool thing was they sent the package, and they sent like a little, like, kind of I guess like a promo postcard with like their picture and like Flight Time logo on it. I was like, this is so fucking cool.
Jesus, I'll be like, oh my god, can you imagine? This is like better than, most people get bills. You get like,
I know, right? Usually I only get bills.
Gee, that must be. That is really sweet. Though I think the way they sort of are to people, it's like there's so many people who are Prince associated acts and people who are amazingly powerful, artists and singers, and they actually. It's really amazing how many of them turn out to be really decent people, really nice.
Absolutely.
I'm just always surprised, because I've never met anyone who's like, I'm this, I'm that, and they've all been like just so giving beyond what they
You know what's funny? There's like a few people that have like a reputation for like maybe being a bit like surly or grouchy, everyone, and then I've met some of those people, and they've been really nice as well. So I'm like, well, you know what? Like, this is why I always say to people, don't judge anyone unless you've like met them and you know them and you feel their energy, because we live in a world where like everything can be twisted, and even people feel like they know people through social media and their art, their music and YouTube and whatever, but like unless you meet somebody and you feel their energy, then you don't know. You just don't. So I try and be positive about everyone, unless somebody's like a convicted murderer or something. I'm like, well, maybe
maybe not tonight. Yes.
Aside from that, I think just try and be nice to everyone and about everyone. But anyway.
I'm surprised that the generosity of them. I think even with their time, sometimes they'll you talk, and they must hear it all the time, and you go up to them and talk about their album or whatever, and they would just talk to you for ages and discuss things, and you feel like it's just it's very appreciated, very, very appreciated.
Yeah. Let's get to the topic on hand. Otherwise, we'll still be here in 3 hours, and nobody will still be watching. And they'll be like, "You said you were going to talk about 1999 Deluxe."
There's a 1999 Deluxe. Oh,
what?
Nobody mentioned it. That's the problem.
So, let's start. I think we're all absolutely thrilled that they finally announced this. I kind of, not to say this in like a bragging way, but like I kind of put my neck on the line over 2 years ago at this point. Was it about 2 years? Yeah, about 2 years ago was when I found out about it. When I was in LA at the end of 2017, and the people that I found out about, or the person that I found out about it from, specifically said, like, can you not say anything about this? And I think I managed to last about 3 months without saying anything about it before I made a comment on the org or mentioned it to a couple of people, and the word came about. And then I consistently mentioned it every so often because Piano and a Microphone got found and bumped up to the priority list, and then they did originals, but all the while I was still kind of very confident in what I'd heard, because now that it's officially been announced, I'll share a little bit more information about the first thing I heard, and that was that there was less than 10 people in the room. One of them was Questlove, and another one of them was Michael Howe from the estate. And one of the other 10 or so people in the room was somebody that I knew, and they told me. And that was obviously like mind blowing. But then just radio silence for months and months and months, until we got drips and drips and drips over the course of the last 2 years. And even then, the set does appear to have changed. It would be stupid for them to not adapt and try new things based on what they felt worked with Piano and a Microphone and originals, and what they maybe didn't feel like didn't work so well in terms of, like, not just in terms of tracks, but pricing and things like that. But I think the one thing that I feel like everybody said about Piano and about originals was like, this is not enough. So then they're like, here you go.
They go, we'll show you.
yeah, exactly. And I genuinely think this is the closest thing to what like everybody's been asking for. So let's break it down bit by bit. Would love to hear all your thoughts on all the different aspects, because there's a lot to unpack. Like there's just so much, and we don't even know everything yet. Like we know most of it at this point, but we still don't know everything. First thing, I guess we'll go in order of what appears to be on the set. So the first disc is the remastered regular album, which appears to have been remastered by Bernie Grundman, who did the original mastering. And I think that's a huge step, because sonically, this was probably the album that needed it the most.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And it looks like, I don't know if you read this, it seems like the second disc of the 7-inch mixes and the extended mixes have also been remastered by Bernie Grundman. Does that sound right?
I've heard that. I mean, I've heard that. I would say that. Yes, I think that's a key thing though, because you like to say this, and possibly obviously Sign of the Times as well. But to hear this remastered, this for me is actually one of the most exciting things, to hear it, and especially Bernie Grundman. At least it's someone. Wow, he was there. You can trust him, and it's just and the quality of his work just speaks for itself. It really, really does.
Absolutely. I think the second disc, I'm not. I know a lot of people will not understand the need for the 7-inch mixes, and I kind of get that. Like, I don't think they're always hugely necessary, but I think they're trying to make the most complete set possible. That's my take on it.
I have heard a lot of people, because like I say, some people I've heard say, well, what's the point, if they're just shorter and stuff like that. But then other people say, no, I want this, they want the complete works, they want those versions. And to be honest, for the Little Red Corvette special dance mix, for that alone, I'm quite happy, because I love that. So I mean, and the more people that get to hear that, better. But yeah,
I mean, as someone that does like DJ sets, having the remastered extended mixes,
yeah.
The amount of times I've tried to drop an extended mix in the club, and I'm trying to like figure out the EQ of the club, and like boost the bass, or like turn down the treble, or vice versa, like really get the EQ right, because just, rips from vinyls from 30 years ago, it's just like, oh, they're not, especially when you're playing digital, and especially because I think certain tracks like Prince, I think he just didn't not that he didn't care, but like getting the perfect mix was not his priority as much as just getting it done and out.
Yeah.
So there's certain mixes that just like, especially if you're in a club that's really not in a great acoustic environment, it can be hard. It can be hard. The one that comes to mind is when I DJ'd Steve Park's launch at the art gallery.
Yeah. Wow.
The art gallery is the worst place to try and DJ, because the room is not built for sound in any way. And I'm just like, I don't know what they're hearing out there. What I'm hearing here is completely different to what the guy at the back of it's just terrible. So a good mix, a good remaster will hopefully solve that in the future.
No pressure DJing for CJ Park. That's fine. Yeah.
The funny thing was where I was where I had the booth set up was like underneath like the biggest framed picture of Prince in the whole gallery. It's like he's like looking at me. I'm like, hey.
Any mistakes, and he's like,
yeah.
you get the wages docked at that point when the Prince look, you know.
Yeah, exactly. So what have we got on CD? If I look to the side, it's because I'm looking at the track.
Yeah, me too.
The video versions, that's cool. That's cool. As far as I know, those have not been released before anywhere. So like automatic video version, or Let's Pretend We're Married video version. Let's Pretend We're Married mono promo edit. That's weird.
I'm really hoping a lot of people check out the automatic video after getting this set and sort of go online, and because that's you know, quite an experience of its own.
Underrated classic. Yeah, absolutely, especially for the year it was made.
Well, that's the thing. I think people forget also because when people who don't really know Prince, they don't realize how long this you know these tracks on this double album are. I mean, you regularly get sort of 8-9 minute songs, and it's like people just don't do that so often anymore. You don't really see that. To see when they get into automatic and you're sort of 9.5 minutes in, and it's I love that song. It's I can't wait to hear that remastered. I'm actually more excited about the remastered than I thought it would be, because I think the first thing that happens is when you see a new set, you think, oh, what haven't I heard? What haven't I seen before? But actually, the remastering, I'm actually really more excited than I thought it would be, and I'm very excited by that. So that's going to be I'm going to be into that big time.
Yeah, absolutely. And as I say, like, it really needs it. It really has needed it for a long time. I mean, I think. Do you know? Have you ever heard of DJ Fofa? Is that his name?
Yeah. Yes. I have a few of his stuff. Allegedly, yes, I do. Yes.
Yeah, his homemade remasters, I think, have been, the best that could be done without having access to the master tapes. And those are, I've had those sort of loaded up into my streaming database, and I always go to those when I can, because some of the early albums are you just find yourself just like turning up your speakers to max because the volume's so like low.
I think they're classic albums, and that's the thing. Is some of the stuff in the 80s, you think, classic albums, and you just it really needed. I really feel like this is the big. I really feel like, I mean, partly because of you and because of your kind of connections, how I feel like the estate really, they've listened and learned, because I mean I think the thing is, although they've been there's obviously major artists who they've had legacy with, say Michael Jackson, or you think of I suppose even going back to Elvis or like that, but the thing is with Prince, there's no one really who's had a vault like he's got. And I think that's the thing. It's a very different proposition, like the Queen or stuff. There's only so much that isn't already out there. Whereas with Prince, there's so much. And I think this time they've really listened. I mean, especially like the fact they're doing all these different packages. So depending if you want to go full out and get the 10 LP monster set, or you want to get the standalone versions. And I think that really it sounds like they've listened and taken on board so much stuff. And that's actually genuinely makes you feel excited for the future, definitely.
It's interesting how they sort of put the packages together, because part of me kind of feels like for the kind of lower end of the packages, you sort of £15 or £20 ones with the 2 CDs or whatever, I kind of wished like that would have been like album and like some outtakes, just to kind of get, for the casual person to realize that, okay, he made this phenomenal album, but then here's another phenomenal album that he didn't, of tracks that he didn't put on, because we know that the quality of what he didn't put out is as good as, in some cases, better than what he did, and the public, they don't understand that, and yeah, that's kind of frustrating to me. But maybe they just feel like casual people aren't interested in things that haven't come out before, and they just want a classic album.
I've heard a few people say, I want the the ones that have been previously released on an album. But I'm always thinking, are they also thinking, if we put that out there, is that going to be the runaway success? Are people going to go for that? It's difficult, because I suppose they've got to kind of push the especially in these days where physical sales are sort of it's a difficult thing. But I don't know. It's whatever you do. I think there's always going to be ways to improve it, but this is like a huge step up. I mean, if we get something similar along these lines as we go on, I mean, I can't complain. I mean, it's I think just the size of it. When I first read it, I thought I'd made a mistake. Personally, when they said like 10 LPs, or I thought, no, I must have read that wrong, or I must have, and to actually see some of the titles and things, I thought, yeah, this is it's the Purple Pennies. I'm thinking the book. I'm thinking
I'm Dave's book as well.
Oh, so much I'm saying to people, it's like, can I have my Christmas presents early? Is that something I can do?
It's a crazy few months we've got.
It's not a bad thing to have, though. I suppose it's not a bad situation. It's really ramping up in terms of the things coming out. Just I mean, the Randy Nicholas book. There's just so much stuff that's happening. It's just it's going to be never a quiet moment in the Prince world.
Yeah, I mean, I saw some people say that they should have like staggered releases and this, that, and the other, but I think they don't. Okay, maybe from a consumer point of view, I can understand that, but that's not how the business works. Like, they know that with this book coming out, there's going to be a massive surge of interest. So everyone who can put something out is business-wise, it just makes sense to do it.
Yeah, and that's the thing. And plus, you're dealing with, like I say, lots of different parts. Like, you've got the estate, but then obviously Randy St. Nicholas doing, and then you've got the Silent Times. They're all kind of looking at their own positioning. And like you say, I think November, October is just it's just a key time as well, I suppose, in the kind of retail situation. But it's not the worst curse in the world, having too much print stuff to choose from.
exactly. And then we've obviously, like, people will just about have calmed down from that, and then we'll have April, and there's bound to be things kind of happening in scheduled for April as well that we don't know about yet.
I can't even imagine what what's going to happen then. Wow. Let's
move on to talk about the outtakes, which I suspect is why a lot of the people watching waiting for us to get into this.
We'll skip all those. Yeah, we're not interested in that. We'll skip all those.
Did you see the article on Super Deluxe Edition from Michael Howe when he was talking about some of the songs? So I think he talked about 5 or 6 of the songs in there. Let's kind of unpack a little bit what he said. He said so you're opening with Feel You Up and Irresistible Bitch as kind of like a medley of different versions of these songs. And he said they're very drum machine heavy and very Gary Newman-esque, which is a very interesting thing, which is funny because Makeup from Originals is such a Gary Newman vibe. Like,
yes.
The original version of that is like so Newman.
I played that for someone and they were like, "This is Prince." I was like, "Yeah, this is Prince." And they're like, it just sounded so different to what they expected Prince to be like. And yeah, it's remarkable. I love that track. It's just sort of there's something very. I think people don't realise the range that Prince has even now. And it's a shame because you listen to. I was listening to Chaos and Sword today, and you go from that to Makeup to Damn You, and it's just ridiculous. No one does all that. And I also love the fact these tracks as well, like Feel You Up and when we you have Can't Stop This Feeling I Got and things like that hung around for years, and then eventually sort of Graffiti Bridge or Batman. I just love the fact that there's like Tick Tick Bang. I always loved in Graffiti Bridge, where it's been around since like the early 80s, and it's like it's been waiting all that time, and it's like right now.
My thing that I always say to people is, like, a lot of artists, they will like do a song in a certain style. Like, they'll find a style and they'll be like, yeah, I like this, I'll make a song in that style. The Prince would do like 20 songs in that style. It's like this. I feel like we're going to be able to make like a consistent kind of stylistic playlist with some of these versions on here, these kind of new wave, new romantic Newman style Feel You Up and Irresistible Bitch and Makeup, and there's going to be a playlist there. So what else have we got? What was he saying? Money Don't Grow on Trees. It's a kind of breezy, guitar-y, band sounding song. That's what he said about it. Sort of, I don't know what to make, where that, without having heard it, like where it might sit in that era. I I'm kind of maybe, the kind of the kind of stuff that was almost like, it was kind of like the rockabilly surf almost style stuff, like He's So Dull and things like that.
Yeah.
And Can't Stop This Feeling I Got as well. Like that's kind of what I'm hoping it feels like.
Yeah. I heard. Was it? I think I might have heard from you where you said about that. Like Bold Generation was very much.
Yes.
Is it like very linked to like a kind of early version of New Power Generation or something? What was that?
Said, yeah. So Michael Howard said in that interview that Bold Generation is a song that was potentially being considered for the time, and is an early version of what became New Power Generation, and that's really interesting because number one, he said Morris is on drums on it, and Morris is also on drums on International Lover, which the alternate version of International Lover on this set, which was also one of those songs that could have gone either way. It could have been a time song, it obviously stayed a Prince song. But like, what I'm wondering is, because obviously Morris also plays the drums on New Power Generation, the version that came out. So I'm wondering is if it's the same drum track.
Yeah, God, I was thinking then all I could hear was Morris Day singing International Lover in my mind, and you know what? I could just see him doing that. So
it works.
It would just be perfect, wouldn't it? I can see a video already with him standing next to his jet, and I could just see it.
There's part of me that thinks it might have actually like made more sense for the time to have it.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's an interesting one, but with Bold Generation, I always did think it was weird that Morris was on drums in New Power Generation in 1990 on Graffiti Bridge, because there didn't appear to be any sessions of Prince with Morris on drums prior to that for like years and years and years. Obviously, he left the camp in '84. He only really started working with Prince again in like '89 for the Corporate World project that became Pandemonium and Graffiti Bridge and all that stuff. So I think if it is the same drum, there's two options. Either it's the same drum track, and Bold Generation is, they just took some of the original parts and remade it into New Power Generation 8 years later, or Prince was like, oh, okay, we're going to rework this song. It is based on that old song that we did. So since you played drums on the original, you might as well play the drums again on this new version. So either one of those things could be the case. And I'm interested to find out what.
Yeah, all I can see in my mind, because I watched Graffiti Bridge the other day, is now like sort of like thinking this is some Machiavellian plan for Morris Day to secretly take over the Glam Slam by saying, I own the drums on that track, therefore I want my club. It's quite bizarre. I'm really fascinated by that, because that's quite teasing. I mean, that, and all I've seen, this is going to come out completely wrong, but all on my timeline, all I hear, and I think in the comments I can read it here, people want to know what vagina sounds like, and that's all that's on my Facebook, and I'm thinking people are going to think, what is going on here? I keep having to put, it's a Prince song, it's okay, but that's all that's going to be, I mean, that is that, because obviously it links in with the vanity and originally calling it a vagina. I'd love to have been there, a fly on the wall in that conversation.
Yeah. So, your stage name. What do you think about that? Vanity just like gives them like some look, like it's like.
But that's going to be quite. I think that's going to get quite a lot of attention. To put
and speaking of attention that they may want otherwise, I think we have to address the £500 gorilla or elephant. The elephant that is the removal of, not the removal or the non-inclusion, depending on which way you look at it, of Extra Lovable and Lust You Always, which I received information from months ago and said it in a video, and I stand by it that they were mixed and pulled out and mixed and considered for this set, and now they are not on there, which the estate know, and Michael Howe knows that Extra Lovable, the original version, is one of the most beloved outtakes. Like, they know that how much fans love the song. So
I think even Prince knew that, didn't he, when he did the later version? I think he knew what people thought of that track. I think you're right as well, because that point you made about, obviously Discord has 11 tracks, and
Yes,
you know,
the other
this
one.
before I was 13, and I kind of feel they would have just slotted on, you know, there. I think it's difficult because there's three things you can do. You can either not put them on the set, and then people would say, well, you know, these are beloved songs, we're going to miss them. You can either edit, you know, certain, because it's not like a key chorus. You know, you could get away with it. Yeah, you could edit that, or you could put them on there. But then they like say, do you get then a lot of articles about that rather than about the music? I mean, for the edit, I think you could. I don't know. I think it's a tough call. First of all, I'm really glad I didn't have to make that decision. I can tell you that. But I kind of, if I was forced at gunpoint, I think I'd probably say I'd have probably gone with the edit. But then I don't know. It's a really tough call because
so I just want to explain for anyone that's watching this that doesn't know.
What are we talking about?
So Extra Lovable, Lest You Always, two beloved songs that have been bootlegged heavily over the years from the 1999 era, both contain references to rape. And it's generally thought that in this current climate, the whole Me Too thing, all that kind of stuff, that those references are the reason why these songs have not been included on the record. They didn't want to deal with any potential backlash. They didn't want to edit the songs to remove lyrics. And so they've gone with not including them. That's the general understanding of these two songs. I agree. I think they could have done. I think they could have done an edit. They could have done an edit. But my take on it is that like they probably had a conversation that was like, can we guarantee that either putting these songs on there, even if we edit them, will not bring any negative backlash? And the fact is, you can't guarantee that.
No,
absolutely. Like that's, I think everybody understands that that's a very strong possibility of something that could happen.
Yeah, and then you get into the whole thing where the music almost gets put second, and people are discussing this, and it becomes, and it's I mean, it's difficult because some songs, I mean, even the original version of You, which Paula Abdul kind of took on Spellbound, has a reference to rape in it. Obviously, she left that out when she did her version, but it's difficult because I was thinking, what could they do? Were they going to put the Extra Lovable, the more modern version, or were they? I think it's difficult because, like you say, it's a tough call, and I from the sound of it, they were. For what you said, it's kind of almost like they were up to the wire, like they're put it in and they're thinking. So it's clearly something they wrestled with. It wasn't just like this is a no-go to begin with. So I think, and like you say with the line, I mean, but then if you take out the line, does someone get that attention to say, oh look, the Prince Estate have been censoring bits and taking bits out, and it's so difficult because it's such a beloved song. It's not like, you know, it's such a celebrated underground song. It's in some ways, it'll probably, all I've seen on my Facebook is people posting that song recently. So it's almost like it's sort of
protest.
Yeah. So it's really, I have sympathy with the estate because, like you say, you want it to be about the music, but it's a really tough call. Maybe these newly mixed versions will mysteriously appear on the internet. Like, You're so cynical.
I don't think anybody would be complaining if that happened.
Yeah, well, yeah, I think that's the thing. It's there's a whole underground world of Prince, and any set is going to be, you know, there's always going to be more stuff you could do, but it's difficult because, like I say, you don't want it to be about that, and you can't always predict how these things, you know, would be sort of taken, and it's a tough call. But I think, you know, they're probably edged on the side of let's not, you know, because once it's out there, you can't then, it's not like a tweet or something, you can't say, oh actually
sorry,
we'll take it off, it never happened, you know. So you know, I mean, you get that though with any, the thing is you've got to be careful with any historic, because I mean, obviously Purple Rain gets a certain amount of criticism and it's difficult because obviously people, there's certain times it's set in certain different sensibilities, but it's one of those things that you've got to be very careful about going back and change, almost pretending things that, or changing things, and it's a whole minefield. And like I say, perhaps we want the music to be front and center, and I'm sure those people who want to sort of listen to those tracks will definitely, there's a way, I'm sure.
And it's weird to me because it's this whole thing about like Like, why is music held at a different standard to like movies and TV shows and other types of art? Like, ultimately it's all art. Like, you can go on Netflix and watch a show like 13 Reasons Why that has like graphic like sexual abuse like scenes, like people getting assaulted, and it's part of the storyline, it's art, and it's like, I don't know, I don't think the lyric is like that big of a deal, but I think in this climate there are people that just wouldn't stand for it, and it would cause too much backlash. But
I mean, it's mad in a sense, because it's not like anyone's going to listen to that lyric and think, oh, you know, and throw their moral framework out of the window. So it's, but
exactly.
Yeah, it's, you know, I used to love that when I used to go into record shops, and they'd have, you know, obviously the parental advisory, which Prince was key in. And I was actually there when a slightly old lady returned a CD in front of me and sort of complaining, this has got swearing on it, and he said, well, you know, this has got, you know, a parental advisory. This is part of the art. And I always remember, because I had the choice of the Symbol album. You know, they sold the clean version and the kind of unedited version, and it was like, this isn't a choice. I want to, as you know, the artist, you know, created it.
Yeah. It's somebody pointed out that that what is it, like a live tour sampler thing of 3 songs that they've included at the end of one of the 2 outdate discs. They said that just seems like a last minute replacement kind of
We've
thing.
got to put something on, and
these 2 songs, because if the theme of these 2 discs is unreleased songs and outtakes, then that's like, what is that? That's just like him jamming a few songs like in live preparation for a live show. Like,
it's almost like they say, we'll go ahead with it, and then I don't know, maybe you hit the legal department and they went, oh, quickly find something quick. It's but I like the length of some of these. You know, when you look at Possessed, I mean, that's a good 8:47. I think Purple Music. 10 minutes 58. I mean, come on.
yeah, absolutely. So they are really, like, they could have edited stuff down and tried to fit more on. So I'm glad that they are giving us full length stuff of a lot of these songs, because I think there was some complaints about originals and the way that they'd edited some of the songs on originals, and certainly it seems that some of them were not actually the originals, but more of a kind of spliced this and that. Like, I think they were saying that the Baby You're a Trip like is actually spliced between the real original and multis from the Jill version. And
I never get over on the radio, because they always, whenever they play When Doves Cry, obviously it fades out before the screams, and every time it just wounds me. It was like, oh no, I've got to hear the screams. Come on.
Yeah. Looking at the track lengths though, I'm so excited about a full length version of If It'll Make You Happy.
Oh yeah.
the version that's been bootlegged, I can't remember when. I feel like that was a fairly recent bootleg, like in the last 5 years, that sort of popped up. It's not one of those ones that's been appearing on bootlegs since like vinyl and tape bootlegs in the 80s. Like, I feel like it only popped up like in the last decade at some point. But the version that did pop up was like 2 minutes or something. It was like half the song. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, this is so great, and you've just leaked like half a song. So a full version of that. I
get the trouble is, sometimes when I listen to bootlegs, and then you hear the official longer version, and it will almost throw you for a moment, and it's just no, I am really happy. You know, the fact that some of these songs, I think, you know, the casual fan, I can't wait to see what they make of it. I really can't.
And reviews as well. Like I'm excited to see what like big journalists, like newspapers, magazines, like blogs and stuff, who don't know really anything about unreleased Prince songs, like hearing these things for the first time. Like, that's going to be really cool to see, like, fans and like everyone. Like, If It'll Make You Happy, I've always said that it reminds me of Stuart Copeland and the Police, like the kind of sound the Police had at that time. Like, something about it like gives it that vibe. And I want to see if any sort of reviewer who knows probably a lot more about that time or their music than I do is going to pick up on that.
I like the fact that 1999, I think, will draw people in, and then they'll hear all these outtakes, and it's just, to me, it's like when the hits came out, I had a few friends who were kind of, you know, quite casual Prince fans, and they bought the hits, and I kind of loved when they hit the B-sides, and they didn't know a lot of the B-sides, and when they hit there, they were like, for most people, this is a person's career. You could release songs like Power Fantastic, and that for most people would be your big hit that you toured on or whatever, and just be able to do that as like, oh, this is She's Always in My Hair. It's just something just a B-side. It's just
And speaking of B-sides, there is a much longer version, alternate take version on this set of How Come You Don't Call Me Anymore, which is going to be absolutely magical to hear. I feel like I know that this longer version is probably going to get like way more intense, like towards the end of it. It's really going to be start hitting the keys a lot harder and throw a few screams in, and
that kills me, that song, because when it fades out the end, he's still really going for it, and it feels like it fades out, and you think, oh, just carry on. It's like, I don't know, like Hard Rock Love or something that fades out, and you think, no, don't fade out now.
Come back.
I always felt like, there's got to be something further on, and he's just getting started. I don't know.
Yeah, that's going to be a real treat. I think that's going to be one of the highlights of the set. I'm
quite looking forward to Something in the Water, because I think I have really good memories when he brought that back in the sort of hit and run tours, and that was the real surprise. I remember going, I think, if I hear that tonight, everything else is a bonus, and I did, and Door for the Machine, but hearing Something in the Water, and to hear that brought back, because it was a song I loved on 1999, but it didn't always get sort of mentioned widely. And when he brought it back, I thought, this is fantastic. And I love the fact he was looking at those kind of those eras and thinking, how could he did I Could Never Take the Place of Your Man, and just changing the things about. And I am quite excited by Something to War, because it's just there's not really anything like it in terms of other artists. It's mad and brilliant and genius.
The version that's the alternate version of that's coming out on here, it's that has been bootlegged, and actually not in amazing quality, so I think we'll have it in much better quality now, but I think I prefer it to the album version. There's extra sort of piano-y, synthy bits that sort of give it a much like dark. It's like the album version, it goes back to what we were saying before. I find the minimalism of it like quite Gary Newman-esque. Like that's like, it seems like that's what he wanted to do with it, but then to achieve that minimalism, he'd taken out some really moody like synthy piano parts, which I really love. Like, I'm a sucker for those like moody synths.
That's because there's a lot of space on that on Something to Water, and I think I love that comment, by the way. But I said that Purple Music said that every time How Come I Don't Call You Anymore ended, he tried to turn up the volume just to kind of catch a few more minutes of genius. But I think that is going to be I love that, and to hear that in a full sound, I think that's impressive to hear these versions. And I think there's going to be a lot of people. I've got this feeling that as soon as this comes out, people are going to be making their own kind of their own 1999 album selection. They're going to be sort of choosing their favorite versions and choosing what songs, and it's going to be about 500. This is my 1999. This is the deluxe super extra edition. It's going to be it's going to be a purple end of the year. I tell you, it's going to be great.
Another one that I'm excited that's on here is the 82 version of Possessed. Full length 82 Possessed, because the version that they put on Purple Rain Deluxe, I think for me, it's clearly just like nowhere near as good as the 82 version. I don't know what he was thinking when he reworked it for the version that ended up on Purple Rain Deluxe, but it sort of lost some of the magic, and to get the full original one that's the key, really.
I still remember first seeing that. I think it was when I first saw the Syracuse.
Yes.
And then he's got Possessed, and it's just I was like, whoa! It's I just have so many memories of that, and actually every time I think of that concert, I think of him kicking the piano stool away, and then this poor guy is like, put it back.
Someone's job, like, pick up all the things Prince has kicked over.
It's like, it doesn't sound like a great job, but I tell you what, I'd have applied then. Because before you know it, you're picking up the stool. The next thing you know, you might be invited to listen to a track or something. Before you know it, you sort of, you practically be, you'll be a tour manager. It'll be fine. It's just, I do love that, and I think to have two because they could have easily just stuck on, you know, made it a lot smaller and just I would put a couple of things, but to actually do a full, you know, like say a couple of discs worth is you know, that's fair play.
Yeah. Moonbeam Levels, the version on this appears to be longer than the Forever version, which the general consensus when Forever came out was that the version they put on that compilation was not from the masters. It was it was considered to be perhaps a slightly cleaned up bootleg tape source, and not too different to the circulating bootleg.
You're going to call it the Versace version. I don't know.
So this one, I mean, I think first of all the track does seem to be a bit longer, but I don't think they would bother putting it on there unless they had actually done it from the master tapes this time, which makes sense because like there's no way they could have really gotten through anything that was in the vault by the time Forever came out. Like there just wasn't enough time. So, I mean, I get that people were upset that like that sort of basically bootleg quality version was thrown on that compilation, but it is what it is. At least they seem to be like correcting that mistake this time.
I mean, it's a massive undertaking. I feel I know we want everything, you know, instantly and I think, but I mean, the vault is, I mean, it's pretty unprecedented. The amount in there, I you know, there's not really anything to compare it to, and it's a lot to go through to see what condition and what ones you've got to kind of need the most work, and there's a lot going on there. And I think it's I really think in terms of, you know, this is speeding up, and this is like I said, I think this is probably the release that most people have been more happy about than anything so far. I mean, it's really, I know I feel sorry in a sense because obviously the family, first of all, probably never expected originally to be thrown into the situation they were thrown into. You've got to rely on kind of the expertise out there, but it also still takes a bit of time to kind of get a bigger plan and to get onto these things. And this really feels like something we've kind of wanted. And if you and like I said, to get, you know, we said, you know, we want live, you know, shows, we want, you know, video, because I mean that's the shocking thing for me for Prince is his tours was just so amazing, and yet officially released tours really are quite, there's not that many of them compared to, you know, I mean he toured all the time, and the amount of tours and it's so frustrating because you see like professionally filmed clips of I don't know, Diamonds and Pearls or Act One, and you think, you know, and the London shows, and you think, oh, you know, if they can, you know, I don't know what they've got. I mean, I know lots of things were filmed, and I think people forget his video vault, in a sense, is going to be equally as fascinating.
Yeah, and not even just the stuff that like we've seen clips of or whatever before, but like as a starting point, like why on earth is Love Sexy Live not out in a digital version? Like it's, I mean, if you want to buy and own a copy of Love Sexy Live, you got two choices. You got the videotapes, like the original VHS tapes from the 80s, or the Japanese laser disc, which nobody can even play, and it came out also in the 80s. That's it. No, there's never been a DVD of it. There's never been Blu-ray. There's never been an official upload of it. It's freaking Love Sexy Live. I mean, it's edited right there, ready to go. Like, how can you not have done that?
It is insane. I mean, I remember, this will pretty show my age. I first hired it from Blockbusters back in the day when there was, you know, and then I got a big video, and I, you know, completely wore it out. I mean, you know, videos don't last forever when you keep playing that piano segment over and over. But that is, like I say, that would require almost no effort. You know, it's there. It's and that to me just cemented the kind of Prince thing, because I got into Prince in '89, and this was like one of the first live things I got hold of, and that to me, you know, it was just once I got over the kind of fact that, you know, disc one, well, you know, tape one was second, and
the order was wrong way around.
I was like, it's fine, but it was, and that's amazing. I mean, you look at that and the amount of stuff that's filmed, and also the amount of videos you think, like you saw the one you want to see and things like that, and you think people are all often talking about he'll have a whole elaborate production, you know, dancers, singers, a whole video, they'd work on it, and then it just go into the vault and you'd never see it again, and it would be just, you know, there somewhere, and you think, you know, what else did he have in there? And I think there's a lot more video stuff to come, and I think that's especially now, because I think they can do so much You know,
I mean, the sort of barrier to entry for getting video out there is much lower than it is right now. Like they could just go to Netflix or Hulu or Amazon or any of the streaming platforms, but here you go. Like we don't even necessarily need to do a physical release, or we can test the popularity of something first, and then if it turns out, you know, people do want it physical, we can do that afterwards. Like there's no reason why they can't do that.
And that's the thing. Netflix is a really good idea because I think, like I said, that reaches so many people, and it also reaches a younger generation in a way, you know, better than a lot of platforms. And I think just having it on there, because you know, you should be able to go on Netflix and say, I want to watch a Prince concert, just like you want to watch a comedy show or something. Go, I want to watch a Prince concert from, you know, I want to watch Sign of Times, I want to watch Love Sexy, I want to watch, and oh wow, that would be I'd never leave the house, to be honest.
Yeah. it was so disappointing for me, like not to open old wounds, but do you remember the Lotus Flower website when he promised like so much like video, and then we just got like 20 clips of like stuff that we'd already seen in low quality, and yeah, that was the whole thing.
It's just kind of weird because I think his mind, you know, he worked at he said he'd take on all these projects at once, and you'd never know, you know. And I think even in I think Maite's book, she spoke about how he would film things, he wouldn't necessarily know what he was going to do with them, or he'd do these clips and it kind of just come together, and it's just he always had, he just had too many ideas bursting out of him. It was just I mean, you know, most people having a career like that would be enough, but he was sort of, you know, instrumental and key in a whole community of careers as well. And you know, it's just, I don't know how he got, I mean, you know, even now if it's 2 or 3 in the morning, I think Scott Woods actually mentioned this, the author, who said that, you know, you would imagine him sort of working your way on something, and how he managed to get, you know, all those things created, and that level of creativity is it's hard to contain how you can get that out of one person. It's just
absolutely. And this is the thing that I think in terms of pacing, although they are now getting to a point where they're releasing a big box set of things we want and book and this and that and the other, like they still need to up the pace. Like there needs to be like remasters of all the Time stuff, Sheila stuff, Maserati, The Family, like all the stuff on Paisley Park, Madhouse, and because all of those things, it's not just the records. You also have the videos, the unreleased stuff that didn't make it onto those albums. Like
I think Jill Jones needs some as well. She needs some.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I just you know, it's just like you say, when you think about that, they're so hard to get hold of. You know, generally a lot of people don't know about them, or you'll see, especially when you see even basic stuff, trying to get hold of some people like Rainbow Children or things like that online. You can spend whatever you want to spend. I mean, I always see it always makes me laugh. I see the you know, the Vault Old Friends of Sale, and they'll have it on eBay and they go, this is a super rare, you know, and you think, is it?
Yeah.
I want £200, please. You're like, really? It's like,
ridiculous. Yeah, it's like stuff I remember when he closed down MPGMC, there was like a fire sale on a bunch of stuff that was like, including Rave Into the Joy Fantastic, and they were selling CDs of Into for like $10 or something. And like now, up until the recent re-release, people were trying to sell Into on eBay for like $200, $250.
Trying to get hold of that. I tried and I was so glad when they re-released that, because Into, I just, you know, I desperately wanted it for such a long time. I loved that, and like I said, that was going for crazy. I saw copies of it going for crazy money, let alone, you know, proper, you know.
Sony needs to they need to do a One Night Alone piano reissue.
Yes,
that's the one that I still see going for like almost more than most things out there. It's always going for a few $100 or more.
Yeah, I have that, and I must say it's I just, God knows, there's some stuff I bought at the time. You think, now it's crazy. It's just crazy what and you know, it's gonna be interesting to see how they do, because like I say, now they're doing this, people are kind of saying, well, I want, you know, this next or this next, and it's gonna be interesting. Are they gonna, you know, work in a progressive way, or are they going to, because lots of people still want his last shows as well. There's a lot of demand for that, and so, you know, I don't know how they're going to sort of the strategy of how they go from here, because obviously they've done the Purple Rain Deluxe to, although this is more deluxe,
ultra deluxe.
Ultra deluxe. So I mean, I don't know what, you know, what do you do? Do you go, continue, sort of in order, or do you say, we've got to get the piano microphone, we've got to get some more, live shows out? It's going to be interesting to see where they go, because, the demand is there. It's interesting. I mean, even hits. I say hits like A Thousand Hugs and Kisses. That should have been a huge hit. It's just like anybody else's career, it would just been, because it had been pushed in the right way. I think there's a huge interest in it, and it just seeing stuff like this is just I never thought I'd sort of see these, especially with the and having the live show as well, having the live music, because that's a key thing.
What did you think of the clip they put on YouTube of 1999 from Detroit? Was it Detroit?
Detroit, yeah. Oh, it's so weird seeing, because just to see people said, I saw a few people make the comment, it was fascinating to see him sing it at a time, not when he'd been performing it for years.
When it was a new song, yeah.
And it was like really, really, I mean, he always performed it well, but I'm saying it's just that there's something about when a new song comes out, you're kind of really, into it, and the energy, you see the energy he has there, and it's just, and just seeing Lisa and Jill, and I don't know, it just looked like, and that tour, we talk about that, but I mean, the time, Vanity, I mean, that's a whole other thing they could, there's still, this is, as deluxe as this is, you could even make it bigger.
You could include the whole Time show, the whole Vanity 6 show.
I mean, it's just it's good to see, to have those videos out, and that's going to be that's going to be amazing. I mean, it's difficult for them, obviously, because what you got to work with, what shows you've got, what the quality you've got to work out with, whatever one you release, you're going to say, oh no, I wanted that one, or I wanted this one. It's because I think, as Prince said, there's no one performance that kind of encapsulates any particular tour. You've got to kind of I mean, he himself sort of struggled a bit with Indigo Nights. He sort of put bits together, and it's a difficult thing to do, but I mean, just some of those songs, and to see and to hear like Head and Let's Work, and at the time, it's just it's An International Lover, which is the whole kind of it's going to be I don't know. It's interesting to see then, though, how he changed, because obviously as he went in his career and he got more and more songs and had a bigger vault, how he would perform more and more songs often. We went to London in the Hit and Run tour. He was like getting through best part of 40 songs. It was just like Whereas at the beginning of his career, he kind of would spend a lot of time with each song, and you get a kind of full experience. So it's going to see interesting to see like 7 or 8 minute kind of in-depth songs. So I'm quite looking forward to that. But
one thing that I think that from those shows, I think will probably surprise some people who've maybe not seen any kind of bootleg clips from maybe even pre live performances for anything pre sort of Purple Rain or anything like that. The one massive difference that I noticed from that clip and any clips from those early years, Prince basically rarely ever does any guitar solos, because he'll always send it to Des. Like Des will always be like killing it with the solo, and so that gives it like a really different kind of dynamic and tone, because Dez's guitar style is so different to Prince, like probably more so than any other guitarist that played with him, at least in the 80s, and Des had a very unique guitar style, and so to see Prince always sort of give up the solo to him was really interesting, and it gives it a different flavor.
I wonder if Des got lots of attention and Prince thought, right, I'm having that. I'm having that.
Taking it back. Yeah.
I mean, it's a phenomenal guitar, and like you say, it was very much a band, experience. People had their roles, and it was can you imagine that later in his career when he's sort of putting sort of right guitar? It just it just wouldn't happen so much with it. I mean, but I'm quite excited. I think this is really a good template. I mean, obviously you can expand and do various other things, but this is a good template. Trouble is now people are looking at Purple Rain Deluxe, and I've heard people even on Facebook saying, "Oh, I wanted this for this. They want more. They want like another Purple Rain." It's like you could just do it forever. You can never stop.
Well, I mean, if they go through the next few years and we get all the things we want, like Controversy Deluxe and Parade Deluxe and all this other stuff, and a full Sign of the Times, Dream Factory, Camille, everything from that era, you can make the biggest box set from that. But then maybe eventually it'll be so long since Purple Rain Deluxe that then we'll get another Purple Rain Deluxe with even more stuff. I will not be surprised.
It's difficult because I find some people it's weird because I'm really happy about this, and then some people say, well, they're concerned about, you know, obviously the focus on print is often in the 80s, and they very much focus on that period. And it's difficult because this needs to happen, and this is fantastic, and it's also, as long as it, like I say, continues. But I think we're at the start of a journey, and there's a lot of particularly because there were certain periods in Prince's career where less stuff leaked out than other times, and that makes you wonder what else is there. And I think, you know, even the Symbol album, when you think of all the segues they kind of cut out and various other pieces, I think it's going to be interesting to see, you know, if they carry on this throughout all those times, like, you know, through the Gold Experience times and what you could do with that. Or I think even sticking with the 80s again, completely defeating my point, but with the Love Sexy Black Album kind of, you know, that could be an amazing set. Having that as like the dark and the evil, the good and the bad, and sort of having a kind of you know, a version of that with you know, an expanded version would be, that would be that's next. I want that.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I agree with this, with the idea that there is an unfortunate narrative of framing Prince only within the 80s. Like, I agree that exists and that it sucks and that it shouldn't be that way. But at the same time, in terms of releases, it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter if you're the heads of the Prince estate or whatever. Like, anything you do, you have to make the business case for why that thing is happening. And one of the strongest business cases is an album so old at this point that it needs a modern remaster, and it's never had one. And that's a really compelling, like, business point, even aside from adding outtakes and adding live shows and stuff. It's just, you know, because you have to look at things from the wider music industry perspective. You know, nobody needs a remaster of 3121 because it still sounds great, right?
Yeah. I think that's the key thing as well. This is a key moment because, you know, he's on that cusp. He's breaking through at MTV. It's that moment, you know, where people assume, you know, the sort of major stars sometimes just pop out of nowhere, and they really don't. There's a lot of work he put, and in particular this tour sort of setting the template for that. And I think people seeing that on the cusp, and he was hungry. He was really, you know, just starting to turn into that major star, and just to see that era. I think this is a really important era because, like I say, you know, Purple Rain. I think it happens to a lot of artists. I know. Obviously Michael Jackson, Madonna, they kind of, people do, and it is a shame because it's I don't mind in the sense of if people get into the 80s stuff as a kind of base, and then they can just explore and enjoy what they like. I mean, you know, people like what they like, and that's fantastic. So it's but it's like it's like a chapter in a book, and there's a lot of chapters.
Absolutely. Everyone has a different entry point. But you need to read the whole book. That's what I say.
Yes, definitely. But, I'm also impressed because, you know, I mean, I know it varies because it depends. Obviously, they've done different packages, so you can afford different things, and I think that's really good because it's something I want as many people to have, you know, as possible. And I hope that this will continue to sort of, you know, sell through time. And I think with the book as well, I think it's all, you know, it's really sort of ramping up. And the thing is, these things obviously have to be planned, you know, in advance. So they're obviously, I'm sure they're already working on the next sort of set of ideas. And then, like I say, by the time April rolls around, well, who knows? I mean, who knows what could be? I mean, you always know before everyone else. Anyway, we know. I found out like 1999 from you. I found there's so many you know, things that you've broken first, and especially I sound awful. I love it when people say, "No, that will never happen," or that, and then, like, you know, a few weeks later they go, oh, you're like, it did happen.
If I'm confident enough to say something about it, then it's gonna happen. Like, otherwise I wouldn't say.
I was laughing at you, but it was I love your video, the you know, the 10 facts about roller reality. I love the way you and Kim are. There's a bit where you say, you know, you're a millennial, and Kim's like, no, I don't even recognize that. You are. I just love it. But it's just it's really good. I think they have that kind of communication, and like I say, I think through people such as yourself, they kind of, I think, you know, they're listening and they're taking it on board and doing what, you know, all the things they can. I mean, you know, you can't have everything in the world, but I think I'm kind of happier with the last, you know, few months, and it's really started sort of pick up and to, you know, there's so many. I'm not been as excited about all the stuff coming. I can't even, you know, I mean, this is on the back of, obviously, you know, you've had Versace and Emancipation on, you know, via, and it just, you know, it's just well, it's a Prince, you know. It's just the tip of the iceberg for Prince, but for, you know.
My thing that I would say when I see people like complaining about the estate and this and that, it's like, it's easy to complain. Like if you don't know like the amount of work that people have to do and all the moving parts and how difficult it is, then like really how valid can your opinion be? Like if you don't know the whole picture, it's like nobody really knows everything that's going on. Like even I think people that have, you know, that know people who work with the estate or have contributed to things, like I love seeing them like get people like Dwayne involved, like Dwayne Tadal's writing the liner notes for this and things like that. And I love Dwayne. We've known Dwayne for a long time now and hung out with him many times. But even a lot of people like that, they're not aware of the entire picture and all the moving parts of the estate and the family and Paisley Park and all this stuff. So it's very difficult. I think, you know, it's probably the toughest job in the music business to be. It's
one of those classic things. People will say, "Oh, you know, I would know what to do." And you say, "Okay, well, what would you do?" And they say what they would do, and then 10 people go, "No."
Yeah, exactly. Everyone's got a different opinion.
It's like Emancipation, you know, trying to get it.
Yeah. trying to pick the songs. Yeah. Who would try and do a crazy thing like that?
Only some crazy person would ever try to.
What else have we got on the set that we haven't covered yet? I think we've covered most of it, actually. Delirious, 6-minute version of Delirious on there we've got. That's going to be one to look forward to. Early Can't Stop This Feeling I Got. That's on there. That's going to be interesting. I wonder if it's like way longer. That's what I want to know.
And do yourself a favor. I mean,
yes.
Yeah. Classic. I mean, 9 minutes. I mean, come on. It's like, it's just...
I have a really interesting story about Do Yourself a Favor, actually.
Oh yeah.
So
keep it secret, everybody.
Yeah. So you know the whole thing about Jesse Johnson and Shockadelica and how Prince said, "Oh, you haven't got a song called that, and you should have a song called that. So I'll write one, and here you go." And then he put it out first, and then Jesse was mad about it because it looked like he'd stolen his thing and that whole thing. Well, I have some additional context on that I found out recently. Jesse told me, actually. You know how Jesse's album Shockadelica has "Do Yourself a Favor" on it, and it's basically musically identical to the version that Prince did in '82, right? But Prince is not credited for it on Jesse's album because Pepe Willie wrote the song. Prince played guitar on the original. I think it was 75 or 76 when he did the 94 East sessions, and Do Yourself, or it was called If You See Me back then. Was the song, and Prince played guitar in it. But the Jesse version is basically identical to the unreleased Prince version that's going to be on this set, and it doesn't really sound that much like If You See Me, the 94 East version is. So and Prince was the one that sort of rearranged the song and played and did all that stuff that, you know, musically what you hear on the Jesse version is basically what Prince did to the song, but he's not credited for it. So my thought is that the whole Shockadelica thing, Prince must have had an advanced copy of the album, heard it, realized he hadn't been credited, and was pissed off about it. And so I heard from Jesse that Jesse had only ever heard Prince's version of the song, the 82 version. So that's why he based his version on the Prince version, and he knew that Pepe Willie had written the song. So he had assumed that when Prince was playing it and recorded his version when Jesse was still in the camp, that was Pepe Willie's song. So when he re-recorded it, he was like, "Yeah, Pepe Willie wrote the song, written by Pepe Willie." And then he didn't know, he'd never heard the 94 East version, and so didn't know that Prince had changed the song musically so much. So that's the story. I think, like, the pieces fit together. Like, he didn't credit Prince because he didn't know that Prince had changed the song so much because he'd never heard the 94 East version.
Oh, no.
So that's what I think happened. And I think Prince found out, and he was like, "Well, fuck you then. I'm going to take your album title and write a song and put it out first." And,
oh man,
all this deep hidden knowledge.
I love that stuff. Oh, I think those stories just, I love it. I love the kind of I was one to the, you know, the 7779311 kind of, you know, that kind of,
Yes.
that kind of like, it's almost like they, you know, that competitive element, I think, really helped. I mean, you know, obviously Prince at the time and various other things. I think that really, you know, G'd everybody on, and you thought, right, I'm going to show him. I'm going to go into the studio. I'm going to do this, or I'm going to create this, or I'm going to. I think, you know, it took a community, and I think that's the thing. Prince was always very keen in doing. He wasn't just going to be, you know, a sort of star on his own. He really brought up this whole, you know, the whole Minneapolis sound, and I think that's you still see it now, and how people don't realize quite how much influence that has. And I think sometimes, you know, people don't realize their kind of ongoing, you know, obviously Janet Jackson's a very good example. I mean, you know, it's just so much that really, you know, he has influenced. And you look at, I suppose, Bruno Mars, obviously another example, and you know, and I love what the Time sort of do that live. And they say, you know, who invented that? Who invented
it? That's a really good point about the competitive stuff, because like we've always heard this thing, and usually coming from the Time set, it's like, yeah, we were kicking Prince's ass on tour, and he would get mad, and he'd kick us off the tour, or take us off the date. And I actually saw one of the reviews from the tour from a local newspaper at the time that had written about it, and they actually said, yeah, the Time were an incredible opening act, and Prince was not as great as the Time. And I was like, holy shit, like that's true. Like they were kicking his ass, and he got mad about it.
I think I saw that article, yeah, because it was like, oh, the Time were brilliant, and Prince was you, and it's like. Because I always thought, was it? It clearly was true. It clearly was. There was sort of, you know, there was times
they were just so pissed off and like so mad about like the way they were being like sort of treated and dismissed, and they were just like, yeah, we're just going to go out there and just put on the fucking best show of all time.
I love what they said. You know, we get towards a big sort of, you know, a big city and a big thing, and suddenly we're like, no, you're not playing tonight. You know, it's like, you know,
like, you can understand like they'd be like super pissed off about it.
It's, I mean, it's just, and they said it was difficult because, you know, whatever happened, you know, even if you got food thrown at you or whatever, you couldn't. It's still your boss, you know. It's still sort of, you know, there's a limit to them, but I mean, you know, that's gonna be interesting actually seeing Morris Day's book, because, you know, it's just I saw like I think on Amazon there's a little sneak preview of you know, a few sort of pages, but that's going to be interesting to see. Even the cover's kind of like, I don't know, it's just very Morris, but it's I think it's gonna be interesting because he knew Prince obviously, you know, for such a long time, and you know, the times that they worked together on their own. And I think his book is going to be I don't know, it's not had as much hype as some other books, but I think it's going to be actually probably, you know, a very, very, very interesting read.
Yeah. Especially I think some of the really good info on that is going to be around like Grand Central. There's not a huge amount of people have really spoken. Like Andre's spoken a bit about Grand Central, and, you know, Chaz has spoken about the early days a little bit, but not in a huge amount of detail. So Morris is going to have some really good information on that in the book, I think. And also when he left, like the circumstances of him leaving the camp and after Purple Rain, and, you know, he had to, I think the story goes that because he had been completely shut off from the Prince camp at this point because he'd left, he had to phone up Mo Austin at Warner Brothers and arrange his own sort of transport and accommodation to the premiere of Purple Rain, like the movie that he's in. Like, because that's going to be really.
It must be such a strange situation. You've got this massive film, you know, you're propelled into the thing, and you've kind of already moved on, and you're kind of out of that. That's just got to be such a strange thing, because I know that you said it was like, let's get the film done, let's just, you know, get that, and that's got to be such a weird feeling, knowing that you're kind of moving on. But even like say early on, we've heard the sort of same stories, and I'd be interested to see, especially, you know, somebody who worked with Prince before, you know, he became a star, before he and that's going to be fascinating. But I like I say, imagine having a phone up for us, like, you know, it's like sort of, I think having a My Day deal, you have to ask for tickets to, like, you know, it's just like bizarre. It's and I like Morris. I think, you know, in interviews he sort of plays that Morris character, if you like. Yeah, and, he would have been. I've seen him on a sort of chat show, and he just you think, yeah, he's just brilliant. He's just you know, I saw him in London, and I think I was at the where just after Prince passed, they had obviously we had Larry Graham and I was at that. And it was lovely. It sounds mad. The thing I really loved is seeing the time and seeing, you know, he's sort of saying how, you know, he wasn't sweating, he was condensating, and I love that. And I was surprised, actually, bizarrely, Mark Ronson surprised me, because when that happened at the end of the DJ set, and you turn around and you just saw everybody kind of dancing, and it was people, you know, every age, every background, and just to see them all dancing to Prince's music, it just sort of I know it hit me of how many people he actually you know, impacted. So yeah, that was quite a thing.
I'm still holding out for a proper UK original 7 show. With that's what I said to Terry. I said when I got it, I sent him a message back, and I was like, "Thanks for the T-shirt. It partially makes up for that European tour that never happened."
You can say this is the advanced promo. You can say this is the beginning of the you know, of the. I mean, that's the thing. I think the time we need because I say with obviously the revolution we had a little while ago, and MPG are coming. Obviously, they're going to Birmingham, aren't they?
They are. First time in Birmingham. I'm going to have to show them around.
I think that's not a coincidence. I see.
It's going to be fun. It's going to be fun.
You know, the original 7 would just be. I mean, you know, that would be a riot. I really think that would be. You know, everybody out there dancing, everybody kind of get into. There's actually a there's a sort of Prince tribute band, New Purple Celebration, and
we saw them at the alumni event.
Yeah. And there's a bit on last time I saw them locally. They played a few time numbers in the middle and got a few people up on stage, and you know, people loved it. It's just like, you know, they're just like, you know, you could do the bird, whatever. It's just like, you know, it was just I just think that that kind of musicianship, you know, it's good to see the people do it. And I like the family as well, just to see, you know, these bands that people sort of didn't appreciate almost as much as they should, and you know, the more tours, and also this is going to sound quite selfish, but I'm going to say just having those events gets people, you know, the Prince people or Prince fans that kind of all meet up and just, you know, you meet people, you get to talk, you get to sort of hear experiences of concerts they've been to, or you know, people fly in you see people from all across the world, and you know, to hear those celebrations, or hear those discussions of how Prince has impacted people. Just I'm purely selfishly, just meeting up is just
yeah,
it's nice,
100%, and especially when you hear like a story that just like you just didn't expect to hear, it just takes you left field. You're like, holy shit! And actually, that reminds me. First of all, I want to say a massive congratulations to you and well done for the Rolling Stones video. I can't remember I said it, because that just blew up. Like, I was so impressed with that. But you just reminded me about that because when I saw Third Eye Girl in Vegas on the Live Out Loud tour, flew out to Vegas with one of my friends. He flew me out like as a surprise to the Live Out Loud tour in Vegas, and we were chilling in the Hard Rock, like the casino part after the show, maybe before the show or after the show, I can't remember. And we meet this guy, just get talking to this guy. He's playing one of the gambling games or whatever, and just hanging out, and he's like, oh, why are you here? I'm like, oh, came to see the Prince show. And he's like, I was there when he opened for the Rolling Stones and got booed off.
No.
I was like, holy shit.
Oh my God.
Like, we just like talked to him for about it for like an hour. We were like,
oh my God. Oh, that was just it's
like meeting somebody and they told you that they've been to the moon. It's
It's like, I know people do that. They'll come up to you and tell you things, and you'll be like, I've had that before. We said, oh yeah, I went on stage and I danced with Prince, and there's a little part of your brain thinking, yeah, and then they pull out their phone and they go, this is me, this is Prince, and you're like, oh my God, yeah, you did, and like, God, I mean, if they'd have known what they knew now, I mean, even the pictures of the concert of the Rolling Stones, you realise, I mean, that's a ridiculously huge venue. It's just insane. It's just I did that video and I thought, you know, obviously I need to be doing Rolling Stones videos. Obviously, I'm thinking there can't be many more.
It's the untapped YouTube fan base of the Rolling Stones. There seem to be quite a lot of them.
Yeah, but it's interesting how I think that it sort of showed a strength, I think, of Prince, of that, you know, he was determined, you know, to make it. And I think people forget that, you know, it wasn't a given. I think sometimes with the Prince narrative, people work backwards. They see his success and they just assume, oh, it's always destined to be. He was a genius, therefore it's going to happen. But there's a lot of other things that go into. I mean, aside from the enormous amount of work and a huge amount of work and the creativity, but there's also key decisions.
Yeah. Bumps in the road, like things that could have gone one way or the other way, and they went that way. Like so many things. Like it's just
when you read like Purple Rain, they say, oh, it's that close to not getting made, and you look back and now thinking, what are they talking about? Of course you've got to make Purple Rain, but at the time they thought he's not hugely well known. I don't know if this is gonna, and looking back, it seems obvious. You think this is gonna make your company hundreds of millions, but no, at the time they're like, well,
they thought it could have been a flop and they'd lose all their money. They just didn't know, and every decision, just like it didn't always line up for him, but even the ones that didn't, like, contributed to what happened after that. And that's following the twists and turns is the interesting thing. Like I think it was Chris Moon that said Prince wanted his stage name to be Mr. Nelson.
Yeah.
and then Chris Moon says, well, you can't be Mr. Nelson because that's Willie Nelson.
Yeah. It's like you are the only Prince. You really I mean, even to this day, there's lots of people in America who will never forgive that Prince sort of didn't take the sign of the times and and sort of carry on and I mean, even that's kind of led into the power of the sign of the times video in a sense. But it's just every decision, people don't realize that there's so many, and especially because for Prince, he was sometimes quite what's the word, sort of very spontaneous. He'd have an idea and right, we're going to film Alphabet Street now. I don't care about the problems. The problems are your problems.
What do you mean you can't get a proper camera and screen and filming stuff to the cold Minneapolis in the middle of the night? Like
it might only be 6 foot. That's fine. Just it's like that sounds like that's a you problem. You just sort that out and it's fine. I think and people don't realize that there's so many things he could have done, and it's making those decisions are very very hard decisions and very they have an impact. I mean, even I think one of the things I admire most is just the fact that he could have just said, right, I'm going to sit no one would have blamed him, so I'm going to sit in the kind of Diamonds and Pearls sort of system. Warner's going to put out videos, we're going to promote it, we're going to put a lot of money, and he could have sat there and you know what, no one would have blamed him and he would have probably made loads more money. But the fact to him that there are more important things in standing up for artists' rights and he could have had a kind of almost an easier life on that treadmill. But the fact that he put that art, the music, even Paisley Park, because most people would have said, right, I'm going to buy myself a nice house. He thought, no, I'm going to put the money into making more music. I'm going to invest it that way and not just and I think it's people say, oh, he could have made more money. I thought, but there was nothing he wanted he couldn't buy, I'm sure. So I mean, his art was, it was more important for the future. And now I remember at the time, people forget the backlash kind of around that Gold Experience era, and people were like, I've gone to this concert, I don't know what these songs are. Why is he enslaved? And everybody, the press just launched into it. And then years later, you have all these artists going, actually, they're kind of almost like they're just grown up on, getting into the music industry and learning from that and thinking, actually, it's really important I own what I do, because otherwise I'm going to be kind of spat at the other end possibly with, taking advantage of, and I'm not going to own my work. And it's really important to do that and making kind of those decisions. So in a sense, he sort of, he was somebody who could actually, he was in a position to do that. And, I think the credit, that is a lot of credit to do that, because it was not an easy thing, not an easy thing at all.
Yeah, absolutely. It wasn't the easy path for him to take. I mean, I'm sure everybody, at Warner's and all that would have loved for him to just chill out. Don't put out any more music after Diamonds and Pearls for a bit, and we'll keep rinsing it and make a bit more money. And he's just like, no, I've got another 5 albums for you. You're going to put them out, and if you don't put them out, then someone else is going to put them out.
I mean, that's the thing. He's like saying that you said, by the time he's on tour, he's already that album's 2 or 3 albums ago. He's like, I think there's a bit in I think it was Maite's book where he said he was very key to getting, he was ready for the Simple album. He said, I've got to do this tour. I've got to do the Diamonds and Pearls. But my mind is kind of here. It's at 7. It's at, and it's just you realize that he just didn't work in the framework. Whereas a lot of artists you read now, they say, right, we're going to spend a few months writing. Then we'll spend a few months sort of putting something in the studio. Then a few months later, we'll do some, editing, get it ready, and then we'll put it out and we'll have a sort of, this video. But he was just, it was like, you sort of go to, you go to bed and he's woken up, he's got, I've done this, I've created this. Like,
It's another hit song.
It's like, this is why he gave. I mean, people talk about originals. They're saying you gave away so many songs. You know, you could do an originals. You could do originals 2, 3, 4. You could just, it's just, you know, it's pretty much, you know, forever. It's just
yeah. Let's have a quick look, see if there's anything else we haven't discussed. I think we've pretty much discussed everything we wanted to discuss about 1999 Deluxe as far as everything that we know right now. I think we've pretty much.
You're convinced there's going to be some sort of secret, I don't know, extra things. I'm convinced there's like something we don't know about. I'm convinced. I don't know. There's going to be some surprises. I just have a feeling. I don't know.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, it's not uncommon, at the least, for. Have you noticed that like Japanese releases always seem to have like a bonus track, like on Target exclusive, like on originals they had the strings cinematic mix of Nothing Compares to You as a bonus track in Target, and
I always get Japanese Deluxe Set and thinking how they always get treated really well. I'm really jealous.
maybe we will see a bonus mysterious thing in Japan or in Target, and maybe it'll be extra lovable.
Imagine.
I'm not holding out hope at this point, but you never know.
Well, I'm sure that the Prince fans will make sure that track's spread far and wide. Anyway.
Yeah. I just want to have a look at some of the comments before we head off in the chat.
Someone called Kim. I've heard of her. She's
really doesn't ring a bell.
No, it's someone.
Just want to say shout out to everyone that has been tuning in and dropped us comments and been in the chat. That's been awesome. We're going to look at some of the recent ones now before we head off. Michelle says something about a misprint. There's a list of song on side A, but it's on side B.
Was that the Chaos and Disorder, was it?
Yeah, that was Chaos and Disorder. Michelle, that was Chaos and Disorder, not 1999 Deluxe.
That's probably worth more now. It's probably a collector.
Yeah. Rare misprint edition. Where is it? Oh, here it is. It's behind me.
Yes.
Apparently, Xanali is on side A after Right the Wrong, like it is on the CD, because it blends into it, doesn't it? But on the vinyl, they've listed it as the opening track on side B.
I never quite got over New Power Soul, because I remember putting in my CD player and it's like 60 tracks or something. I was like, what?
Oh yeah.
What? This is amazing. It's like I didn't realize it's like about 45.
Yeah.
But it's worth it for the track at the end. So wasted kiss.
Do you ever remember around that kind of time, sort of mid to late 90s? A lot, like some CDs would have a thing where there'd be a hidden track in like the countdown to the next track. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I never understood how they did that.
Somebody was saying about all the hidden tracks on Prince albums, and somebody said, "Oh, there's a hidden track before the first song." It's like, how does that work?
Yeah. It's like you'd put in for most CDs, you'd put them in, and then like at the end of one song, there'd be like a minus countdown, like 3, 2, 1 before it went into the second song. Some people figured out how to like configure the CD so that the minus countdown was also a track and had a track in it. But then you could never skip to it. You'd have to skip to the next track and then like hold down the skip so that it did like the digital rewind into like the countdown bit. So it was the weirdest thing. But
people never forgave Prince for Love Sexy with that one track.
Oh yeah. That's.
I was lucky. I was brought up in tapes, and that was good days. When can we expect what can we expect in your autobiography? Well, good question.
In whose autobiography?
Prince has got it. What can we expect in the autobiography? Yes, I suppose the Prince book. We've had a taste of that article, haven't we? With Dan.
That article was incredible. I thought it's so well written. Such a good sort of recollection of events.
It was interesting how much Prince's mind was. Then he was still just ideas everywhere. So he was just ideas, and he had so much, so many things he wanted to do, and it was just even for promotion. Like we're gonna, sort of go to someone's house or something, or listen to their story, and also it's interesting how much more he was becoming involved, got to politics and activism. And even though he's always been there, I think he was at the point where he was just it was just an interesting new phase, and it's just one of the many sad, sort of things that we never got to see that even fuller, because I think this book is going to be, I think it's going to open a few eyes. I just have this feeling he's going to sort of I never thought we'd see it. I never thought when he announced it, I thought, part of me thought, no, does he mean like a 21 Nights? Does he mean like
a photo book?
Yeah, I thought he's not going to be like an open about quite personal stuff. But from what I've read, it kind of looks like he's going there. So yeah.
Didn't they say there's they're including some of the Purple Notebook from Purple Rain, so that he the 1999 tour and sort of following that, he would always be seen with this Purple Notebook where he was scribbling all the notes for what would be Purple Rain. I believe they said that they're including some of that in it as well.
That'd be brilliant, because there are a few sort of pieces that obviously the exhibition. It was really interesting to see how his mind. I love the little notes, just any little notes he makes and sort of how his ideas come together, and it's just you almost forget that he sat there and with these songs, and he wrote these songs on and probably went through quite a lot of drafts before he got there. But yeah. I've also got to say thank you to just for doing what you seriously. I mean, it's people don't realize there's a lot of work, and I know you have to obviously you sort of and travel and and also all the other stuff that life has as well. So I mean, it's people forget that it's it's a kind of real labor of love, and I think that it's thank God.
I appreciate it, and as much as I'm sure that certain people get annoyed with me trying to dig info out of them all the time, and people on the inside, if you never ask, then you never find stuff out.
It's got a difficult balance though, because like I say, on one hand you want to know it all, but on the other hand, you got kind of, there's a way I suppose to get it. It's like
I think you have to have a certain kind of like way of thinking about things, because what I find really often is that I'll be talking to people, and whether that's like talking to like St. Paul at a Deluxe gig, or like talking to this person, or talking to the Revolution, or like whatever, like over a long period of time, if I hear a certain piece of information, often it'll be like, oh, that reminds me of when this person a year ago said X to me, and then it sort of fits in, and the bigger picture or something, it only comes together like over time. Like everything is just tidbits of info until further down the line when you find things that link them all together. But that it happens so often. I'm lucky that I remember shit. It's like it's useless information for years until it becomes useful information.
Yeah, that's true. Oh no, I think that's a really it's an important thing. Especially I think the interviews are really important, like you said, because of there's information that will get lost otherwise, and people won't know it. And I think that's really key, because if people don't tell their stories, so often it gets lost, and to have that out there is really important for the people who knew Prince. And I think that's especially the most interesting interviews sometimes come from places you wouldn't immediately think of, because a lot of when it's on TV, people always seem to go for the big names or whatever, but I think sometimes it's like, hey, it's the studio engineer, it's the person, people who work at Prince who really have a kind of forensic understanding of that. And I think people don't always think of that as and that's they're actually some of the most important in his recording process and how he did things. And I think those things are are really, really important, and to go into that detail. And I love the fact you kind of you asked the question. The amount of times I thought, I'd like to, and you've asked it, and I was like, he's asked it. It's like it's kind of you get into that.
Well, this is the thing. If we don't ask these questions, then like nobody does. That's the problem.
Yeah. And whenever you see sometimes that people in this interview, they're interviewed by a journalist who has sort of maybe not a hugely understanding of Prince, and they'll ask kind of the questions that the sort of superficial questions, but at least when you're asking the kind of thing, how did he do that, or that version of that, and it's like it's a much more important like forensic investigation rather than sort of like Purple Rain.
It's so frustrating to me when like you see like the Revolution on TV or something, like, oh, so what was it like on the Purple Rain tour? There's about a million questions that are more like interesting that nobody's ever asked them, and that's what you go with. Like seriously, like a 5-minute Google search would like tell you, like, give you about 50 interviews where they talked about it in depth.
And it'd be like they'd always ask us, "Oh, like, you know, did you like his clothes? Did he? What did he smell like? What was he like? What was he?"
Oh, I've heard he was a bit short. Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
it's not even a question.
I know. And also, I think they don't always. They often, like, you know, with people who work at Prince, they forget how talented these people are. And I think sometimes I was listening to some Jesse Johnson stuff the other day, and you know what, you forget how talented these people are, and it's almost, you know, you listen and you think these are people who, you know, are stars in their own right. They're phenomenally talented people, and I think it's, you know, it's important not to people think that, you know, Prince had an eye for, you know, the best, and they could come from anywhere. I mean, you know, like Donna Grant, you could just, I mean, that's a kind of almost bizarre story in itself, but it's just, you know, he chose people really well and fit. And sometimes I love the fact he would hook up on someone and sort of like, even with Tony M, sort of hook up on someone, but it wouldn't be till years later that it would kind of like, it's like, right, now I'm in a position where I think this person will fit in here, or this person, or this person, you know. And I think he always tried to leave people as well. They said with you know, sort of their bounce off, like whether it be an album or whether it be a connection or something, that he was sort of like, he wanted them to go on and do their own career. And that's why when you see like Edie Nelson or Donna Grant, and you think, you know, you're carrying on and doing, you know, what he would want you to do and go off and have your own career, because he wanted you to have that. And I think that's it wasn't just like, you know, you work with Prince, then it's like, oh, you know, you've got he wants you to go on and be your best. And you see the influence in, well, Janelle Monáe, I suppose, probably very much at the moment. You know, she did a performance the other day. Oh, I think it was at the Fashion Awards somewhere, and she did phenomenal talent. And I've just been listening to Giving Them What They Love.
Oh, great.
Oh, I love that. There's a version on YouTube with just the voices, and I think
yes,
oh, I love that. It's just so cool.
I didn't see the fashion show one, but the last one I saw of her was Glastonbury, and we watched it on BBC. And she's phenomenal. She really is.
I think she's like I say, he's sort of, you know, when I saw Edie Nelson, you see, when you see these musicians close up, you think it's almost beyond. It's hard to understand because I don't play any instruments. It's like, and when I look at it, you see the talent and clearly also the enjoyment they get from it, but also you just see it and you think, you know, this is you know, a phenomenal talent. And I think, you know, so I'd say to anybody, if you get to see any of these musicians in kind of Prince's world live, then God, you just jump at the chance and just go.
Absolutely. All right. Well, I think we've taken enough of people's time. So I want to especially shout out to everyone that's been watching this. Some of you have been watching this entire thing. So you're amazing. We love you. Oh, let's take one more question before we head off. That is, what happened to the Netflix series? Any inside info on why it was cancelled? It's not cancelled. They just Ava DuVernay, the director, original director, is no longer involved with the project, and I presume they have either found a new director by now, and we'll probably hear about that soon, or they're still looking for one. Lots of people have said Spike Lee might want to do it. A few people suggested Martin Scorsese. Did a great job with the Rolling Stones thing that he did. Either way, I think it's a very long process to do that and to do it properly. I'm not expecting to see it anytime soon. I think it's probably at least a year, maybe 2 away, especially if they don't have a director right now. And that's fine. That's fine, as long as they do it properly. The last thing we want is just like a half-assed thing that covers like a couple of key points and then just like, no, like that's not what we want. It's not what we need. If you're going to do a series, it needs to be a series that covers not just Purple Rain and Love Sexy, but like everything, and properly. Like there should be just as much attention paid to, you know, Gold Experience and Emancipation, New Power Soul, right? Like everything as there is to 1999 Purple Rain. And that doesn't just apply to this series. I think that should be the attitude for, you know, everyone involved in the estate. But as far as that series goes, like either do it properly or don't do it at all.
I think that's absolutely right. Yeah, because the amount of documentaries I've watched where it'll be like, you know, an hour and a half, and they'll focus on you know, the 80s. They'll get to like sort of Batman, and then suddenly in the last 15 or for 10 minutes, I'll speed through about, you know,
yeah. They do the Super Bowl, and that's the end. Bye.
Yeah, I've seen ones where it's like Prince disappeared at sort of he did, like, you know, the Diamonds and Pearls album, and then you know, we saw him sort of we think he did Emancipation. Then I've seen one of them.
It's like they skip an entire decade. Yeah.
It's like Emancipation. They go, and then he did Musicology. And I thought, sorry, was there nothing in between? You know, and I think they do skip. And I think, let's say, it's really important to actually do a good quality product and to get this right and put some. It's better to have it right rather than just, like, say, rush out another, because he needs his whole career to be, you know, and I think it needs to be done by somebody who's you know, really it's got to be a kind of passionate, you know, advocate of that. And there's been a lot of documentaries which haven't been phenomenal, and some of the ones that have been quite interesting. I mean, there's actually one, the slave trade, where they talk about Prince's, obviously, and it's quite interesting to hear from some of the people there. And they need you know, we need that kind of level of detail. But as you say, you could, quite frankly, you could do a few hours about every era, you know.
my whole thing, and I've always said this about every documentary that comes out, and I will always say it because there will be probably some terrible ones in the future as well, but unless you have the estate on board, unless you have a partner like Netflix and basically a ridiculously high budget to do it, then, like, don't try and do a documentary that covers Prince's career, because you just can't do it. There's no way. You end up skipping just the same stuff that everybody skips, and focusing on the same stuff that everyone focuses on. It's just not going to work. You have to focus on either a very specific era and the story that told, or at the most, I don't know, I wouldn't even go more than like 3 or 4 years max as a time period, because he just did too much every single year.
Yeah.
It's not, it just doesn't, you can't do it.
Yeah. And that's the thing, at least with Netflix, I imagine, you know, you sort of say the word Netflix to someone, and that's going to open quite a few doors instantly to and like you say, it's a huge I mean, there's a lot of responsibility with that, and it's a shame, because, like I say, Ava was amazing, and I think I mean, they may have taken on a lot of ideas. We don't, you know, but we'll have to see what they do. But I think you're right, they had to do it properly, and I think you're right about the era. You could focus on one era, and quite frankly, you could you know, I mean, a couple of hours, you could do the Gold Experience, and you still a couple of hours and still probably in the touch.
Exactly. That's the thing. That's a point, I think, a good point to leave it on. Thank you everyone for watching. Thanks, Jay, for joining me.
Thank you.
Awesome. Hope to, now that we know it works, we could do more in the future, and we'll get Kim and Mr. Ant and JD as well. We'll get him back for another thing.
Big shout out to JD. He's brilliant. He's very, very good. I've watched a few of his videos recently, and very, very good.
He's great. We got a whole little YouTube family coming together.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks everyone for watching. Hope you've enjoyed it. If you want to see more of these kind of link ups and roundtables and discussions things, and let us know what you want to see. Subscribe if you haven't already, both to Violet Reality and Nightchild. We'll see you all next time. This broadcast is now over. Peace.